Appleseed Alpha weaves together the threads of ancient theological questions, mythological allusions, and human emotion with remarkable subtlety. At the center of the story are Deunan and Briareos, whose relationship serves as a poignant retelling of Adam and Eve in a post-apocalyptic Eden. Deunan, the bright side feeler, and Briareos, the analytical thinker, represents two halves of a whole, made for each other. Though Briareos has been physically transformed into a cyborg, a new man in a city of man, Deunan remains the same woman he loved before the fall. Together, they navigate the world ravaged by war and sin, and yet, like Adam and Eve, who were exiled but still bore humanity's future, they choose to plant the seed of hope, even after tasting the metaphorical apple. This is especially resonant in their more affectionate scenes, where despite all that's been lost, they hold on to one another as a living choice, a choice to continue. Another apple reference emerges when Olsen, a soldier from the rumored city Olympus, removes the blocking microchip in Briareos and calls it a worm. The biblical worm is a powerful metaphor. It appears literally, as in descriptions of decay, but also spiritually, as in Psalm 22, I am a worm and not a man, and Isaiah 66:24 references the evildoer as the worm that does not die. Describes the future punishment of the wicked, suggesting spiritual damnation. Olsen's line thus alludes not only to technological control being placed on Briareos' strength, but spiritual degradation and corruption. There is a cost of sin upon the remnants of their war. Additionally, the bioroid from Olympus, Iris, also carries deep symbolic weight. Her name recalls the iris flower referenced in Luke 12:27. Consider the irises how they grow. They do not toil, nor do they spin. Yet I tell you, even Solomon in all his glory was not clothed like one of these. In Christian readings, this verse is about divine providence, God's care for creation, and a rejection of anxiety over material concerns. Iris becomes a symbol of purity and God's care, an innocent caught in the aftermath of war, who nonetheless holds the power to redirect humanity's course. Her name, blooming in the wreckage, foreshadows not only the possibility of resurrection, but the foreshadowed beauty of sacrifice. A critical theological moment occurs when Olsen mentions their mission from Olympus. Briareos responds, "Of course you're from Olympus. It's the salvation of mankind, right? If you trust in that, don't be surprised if I don't trust you." This can be read through the lens of Reinhold Niebuhr and St. Augustine's warning against utopianism. Salvation, biblically speaking, is not something man orchestrates. It is the gift of grace through Christ. Briareos' distrust in Olympus reflects a rejection of man-made salvation and recalls Jacques' critique of technological society, the idolatry of human control. As warned, in trying to control everything through technology, we lose control of ourselves, or worse, we forget what it is to be human. Later, when Deunan speaks to Iris, she laments about the aftermath of their war. "I hate to break it to you, but we failed. I'm reminded of it every day. The memory of what we built and the reality of what we destroyed." Her speech echoes Revelation. The imagery of divine justice, of remembering what once was and longing for a renewed Eden, thunders with apocalyptic tones. It also echoes Paul's teaching that suffering leads to perseverance and character, ultimately ending in hope, as suggested at the end of the film. In the chopper scene, when Talos shoots Olsen and tells Iris, "People never get what they want. You'll find that out soon enough." The bitterness of the statement contrasts sharply with the ethic of forgiveness taught by Jesus. In Matthew 5:38-40, there's an overturn of the eye for an eye with radical grace. While Talos represents vengeance and fatalism, Iris' story, her willingness to give her life for others, reframes the narrative in sacrificial terms, similar to the Christian doctrine of atonement. The final act of the film drives a lot of these biblical parallels home. Briareos and Deunan find Olsen dead. Grief-stricken, they bury him with the cross and choose to press on. Their embrace, the recognition of their need to make a choice beyond mere survival, is reminiscent of Jesus' call to discipleship, to take up one's cross and follow through. Iris' sacrifice, although she is a Briareoid, mirrors Christ's redemptive act. She chooses to give her life to prevent further destruction. In doing so, she transcends the limitations of her design and affirms the value of life, forgiveness, and peace. The film also invites comparisons with Paradise Lost, though with a twist. While Milton used Greek mythology to portray evil, Appleseed reclaims it for redemptive storytelling. Talos, named after the mythical automaton who protected Crete, is now the corrupted fallen angel figure, mirroring Satan's pride. He represents the intoxicating lure of power and chaos by saying, "People love war. It's human nature to romanticize it." Briareos, though also named after the Greek myth, becomes a redeemed Adam, choosing peace and partnership over destruction. Unlike the brute force his name implies, he finds strength in his love. In the end, Iris becomes more than just an artificial creation. She becomes a Christ figure, giving her life to end the cycle of violence. And Briareos, once hardened and skeptical, decides to lead Deunan towards Olympus, not as a utopia, but as a possibility. In this city of man, they choose to begin again. Furthermore, the closing line, "Hope, what a concept," is no throwaway. It is the thesis of the film. Hope, even in a fallen world, remains the light that guides Deunan and Briareos forward. It is the final act of faith. In conclusion, their journey is not just about survival, but about the fearlessness to hope after Eden, after the fall, and after the sin. For Briareos and Deunan, the garden may be gone, but the seeds of faith they hold are still there. And just like their relationship, they choose to plant them along the journey.